Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the ESL Challenger League losers bracket match between Legion. We're going up against IHC for this best of 3. Right here, first map just to here, where Legion are going to be the ones to start off on a long forcing the rest of the IHC back. Rita falls, that's going to leave only 3 behind. Is present, however, IHC are left alive with just 1 player to deal with 3. Terrorists win. A very proactive first round victory. Speaking of the map picks here, we are gonna see this best of 3 take us through Dust 2 to begin with, then we will be heading on to Mirage, and if need be, we will be heading on to Inferno as well. IHC, they did not have a good start in this ESL Challenger League. Having lost their first game, they had to win one. However, Legion, they did have a good start. They ended up losing their second game in a 1 fashion. But the map pool, for the most part, has remained extremely similar all across for Legion in these 3 matches. The first 2 maps have been Mirage and Dust 2 in various orders. And Legion extremely comfortable with this round, as you'd anticipate. The work with Bloody finds a nice little headshot, and the last one live is going to be Apist, who likely won't be able to find terrorists win. But nah, Soulmate not to provide him the opportunity. Legion are comfortable to their start. Now, Dust 2 is a map where Legion have had quite a lot of recent history. We head into the first round of the game here. IHC are not going to have a lot of util on their hands to work with. Rita going to have to make do with a scout. No defuse kits except for Rita either. So a slow start in terms of how their economy looks as well. However, Legion, this should be relatively easier for them, of course, not having to deal with a proper off. But that's going to be the first line of defense towards the CT side here. However, Legion much more interested in that short push. Rita already being denied courtesy of those smokes as the push comes in. A flash to push him back further. Redet right under Rita, first one to fall, and Bloody looking for, he knows where Redet is. It's only a matter of time. He's standing right on top of it, and an M4 puts a headshot into Bloody to finish him off. A 1-on-1 kill count to kick things off here. Pokemon right on top of the box. Ooh, the timing's a bit bad. However, Apis puts a bullet into his head. Reese follows up, and that's going to be 3 quick kills for the side of IHC. Soulmate last alive, and a nice little double peek for the side of IHC to finish them off. And the first round finally on board for IHC. Legion not going to be too disappointed with that. They did deal a lot of financial damage onto IHC. But winning the round obviously was the goal. They do have enough finances to be able to purchase fully back into this round. Now, speaking of their recent history in Dust 2, they've had very great successes actually in their last 2 games in ESL Challengers over here. One of them ended up being a 13-6 victory against Eruption, and the other a 13-7 against Nomads for their first game of the Challenger League. However, Mirage has not been as pleasant to them. So Legion are really looking forward to taking this map away to keep their run alive in the Challenger League. a nice little start as Rita falls. Quite unsuccessful with that scout so far. IHC are gonna feel all the burden of that, of losing a player so early on into the game as well. However, Legion looking to push the A side yet again. Rotet falls, and that's gonna leave Whistle all by himself, having to deal with the whole squad of Legion. A nice little dink of Thomas, but it's not gonna be enough to finish off the frag. Bloody gonna get the revenge, make sure that Weasel gets no frags whatsoever. Although Pokemon is tagged up very much, it's still going to be an easy round for Legion here, as I doubt IHC would want to re-engage. Yeah, they just want to hold on to those M4s there. The C4 Economic Express is way too much to deal with, and they're going to grant Legion this round a very easy victory. Legion capitalized on finding that initial frag onto Rita very early on, and they did so very well as well. They collapsed onto the A side from two different directions, of course, to ensure that Weasel and Rotet could have no help whatsoever. And once Rotet had fallen, the round was practically over right there, as we saw absolutely no movements to try and back up Weasel. So terrorists win. Legion, pretty good start from them so far. Everybody on the team putting up numbers, a decent amount to kick things off here. And now once again, IHC are gonna be heavily reliant on just those two rifles to try and make some magic happen, while the rest of the team are just gonna have to work with pistols. Oh. One defuse kit in the hands of Zev. Rotet is gonna have to face off Pokemon to kick things off here alongside Bloody. That Molotov pushes him up further. A nice little headshot for him to kick things off. He somehow has managed to survive a little while longer, gets his hands onto an AK, and that is gonna make him a key player in this round potentially. Rotet unfortunately falls. Bloody tagged down quite a bit through the smoke, but he is alive. Rita gonna be able to pick up the AK, so that's gonna be 3 rifles in the hands of IHC. HF sustains a bit of damage, and Bloody and HF, both of them have been extremely weak. Apest has been trying to hold on to this angle all by himself, and he's gonna need some help eventually, and the help has finally arrived out towards window. But HF is already ducked into the corner. Apest not anticipating that. There is a trade. Zeph from within the site has managed to find 2 frags, but now it's come down to a 1 versus 1. The C4 not in the hands of Sultan, and Sultan misses his initial shots. Zev is going to be able to finish him off on to that. Capitalizes a nicely gained shot. And the second on board for IHC. Finally, Rita getting his hands onto an op. That has been a long time coming. His performance with the scout has not been really impressive so far, but can he make this work? Ooh, no, that's a team kill to kick things off, and Legion. That's gonna force them into a much more aggressive stance as Bloody falls as well. That's gonna leave only 3 behind. Zev's positioning still unknown, but HF deals with him. Rotet a nice little headshot onto HF, grants him a little bit of leeway, but Soulmate eventually does put an end to his run in this round. 2 versus 2 now. Bomb gets planted. Grenade doesn't land. Soulmate finds a nice little headshot. Rita last alive. Both of the players on the side of Legion, though, extremely weakened up. However, there are no utils. Soulmate has been absolutely vital in this round, finding a 4K. Especially after having lost 2 players to kick things off for IHC. And then Eco comes up, starts to fire force fire here to the side of IHC, and somehow they're making it work. Weasel with a nice little 2K to kick things off with the 5-7. That's going to grant 2 weapons to the side of IHC. And even though the A side has practically been given up, IHC's quick rotation might just give them a chance to hold Legion back here. The nade starting to flow in. Zev close with the Mac 10, but it's going to be a Red-Dead. He's managed to find one Pokemon. A little awkward timing there, but managed to stay alive for at least for the time being. Pokemon now in a miserable spot here as there are people all around him. And he needs to take care of them with no support whatsoever. 1 versus 3. A fake bomb plant. Eventually pull Zev out, and he does so successfully. 1 versus 2 now. Pokemon. He does have a lot of time to work with. Quick reload, gives away his location, but that forces Weasel out, and that's going to be another nice frag. 1 versus 1. Rotet with the op. And he gets the shot onto Pokemon. The 3rd round for IHC on board, and it could not have been much more uncomfortable for them, even in such a clutch situation. Pokemon a really nice attempt in the end, however, it just was not enough. And finally, the economy on the side of Legion has been broken. Scout shot missed, but Rita doesn't with the op. Pokemon found to kick things off right there. Sultan gonna pick up the scout. But the eco not working out as well as it did for IHC to kick things off at least. IHC, they already have a man advantage to work with. They're not going to give much away here to the side of Legion. Not going to make the same errors that Legion did in the last round. But Legion, being the T side, are going to have to approach a site eventually. Rita primed with the op. One player peeks in and HF immediately found. Rita looking for more. The shot missed. Trying to make up for it, but there's the second one. That's going to allow Legion to finally get on board in this round. No kills found until that shot from Bloody. He's been absolutely dangerous with the Deagle every single time we've seen him play with one. However, the rest of his teammates, not the same storyline there. All of them falling in quick succession. And IHC are going to successfully tie up the scoreline 4-4. The first halves for Legion have been quite consistent actually, where they've ended up going 6-6 in both of their previous matches. So this isn't exactly something unorthodox that we're seeing from the side of Legion. However, it's generally the second half where they start to shine, and the rather disappointing part in that is that those second halves have been when Legion have been on the T side. So maybe we finally see them lose their first Dust to an ESL Challengers if this keeps up, because IHC, they've been really good regardless of having a slower start. Oh, Rotet, an easy pick onto Pokemon, and there's no retaliation from the side of Legion. The timing was just absolutely terrible. And there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. IHC, they got a frag from the comfort of their home. Right from T-spawn, practically. But Rotet, he wants more. Re-engages over towards middle. The smoke keeping him safe for the time being. But now it's Legion who are going to have to play this round without their leader. Oh, that's a flash missed. But with 35 seconds left on the clock, Legion are going to have to make a choice, and they're going to have to do so quick. Soulmate left alone to conquer short, while the rest of his three teammates are going to have to face off against Weasel. One walks right into his crosshair. There's the second. One bullet remaining in the magazine, so finally Weasel does get found. However, Soulmate has fallen, and Bloody is the last alive, and he too shall fall to the hands of Rita's op. Rotet has been absolutely magnificent so far. 11 frags, 6 deaths. While Legion, even after having a collectively good start, have slowed down quite a bit. Losing that eco round has put their progress on hold for the time being. And with only 3 rounds remaining, a timeout has been called in for the side of Legion. This is going to be an eco. And theoretically, should be extremely easy for IHC to convert this one, hence putting them on 6th. So this is by far the worst B-side on Dust 2 that Legion have had in ESL Challengers. Ooh, Rotet. Timing could have been a little bit awkward. A nice little flash to force him back. Rita misses his op shot as well. So Legion, a really aggressive push onto the A side. Weasel though, he's gonna put Sultan to bed, leaving 4 behind. Bomb getting planted. But eventually, bench is gonna come in. Nobody's gonna engage from short. Rotet finds 2. Soulmate has gotten one with the deck 9, but he's too has fallen bloodied. Not gonna be putting any magical work into this round with the Deagle. At the loss of only 1, IHC convert their 6th and guarantee themselves at least an equalized first half. This is not a good start from Legion whatsoever. They've had slow starts in Dust 2, but those have generally occurred when they were on the CT side. However, their D sides have been pretty dominant. Weasel alongside Rotet spray down a long, and they find 2 Pokemon. Does get a frag. However, the pressure already implied by the side of IHC is going to be too much to slow them down here. The smoke further hindering their progress, and now Legion are going to be left looking for answers. Ooh, Pokemon! He's been granted a frag, and that's going to be a big one. Rita's off has been taken out of the equation. One trade. That's gonna leave 2 behind on either side, and Legion, they've made this somewhat beneficial and very much possible now. IHC, that frag that Rita granted Legion should not have happened, but Zev, he's starting to get a little aggressive. He's gonna spot both of them and lines them up. HF and Soulmate, and both end up going down to Zev. Last round of the first half. And IHC are going to be extremely happy with how this has gone, especially considering the fact that they had a slow start, lost the pistol, and ever since winning that eco, things have really turned around for IHC on map number 1 of the series. Legion yet to win a single round ever since. Pistons are going to be tested here. Pokemon, the timing is not going to be favorable. However, he still gets the frag onto Weasel or towards mid. And now the push coming in towards the B side. Pistons have both of them playing this a little bit sneakier than usual. Zev finds one, now looking for another. HF misses his first shot, makes up for it eventually. And now it's going to come down to a 2 versus 4. Pokemon for a late bench. While IHC are trying something similar themselves, although it's going to fail as Ratat falls. That's going to leave only Rita behind, and he too shall get put down. Legion recovers somewhat towards the end. And it's still not entirely out of their reach, but IHC are going to be heading into the second half pretty happy with how that CTU side went. Tech timeout called in. Unsure of what the issue is, but hopefully this gets resumed soon and it's not too long a wait. However, we're gonna have to wait and find out. But Legion, a good start into this half is gonna be absolutely essential for them. Their CT side has not been as smooth as their T side has been on Dust 2, so they will want to equalize the score from the get-go and build upon that. Because having lost that eco, it's not been looking really good ever since. IHC in their last match against Max Power had quite a successful T side as well, where they ended up winning 8 rounds in the half to begin with, and 5 on the CT side to conclude the game out. And so, from the looks of it, both of these teams have had successful runs on Dust 2. And even the game that IHC lost, the scoreline ended up being 13-8 on Dust 2 itself. So it's not something that they're unfamiliar with. They play this map quite repeatedly, actually. However, we're gonna have to wait to find out who comes out on top. In this one, the technical timeout has come to a conclusion, so we are gonna resume with the game here. The pistol round of the second half. Nice little flash, gonna set up HF for success there in the first engagement. Weasel, first one to fall. Pokemon alongside Soulmate have a nice little crossfire setup that's gonna grant them a trade. And Pokemon walks back with the dualies. However, they may not anticipate Zev being that close. The first shot missed and Pokemon capitalizes. That's gonna leave only 2 behind for IHC. C4 still in the hands of Ferdet, but now a pinch now being set up by Bloody and Pokemon. It may not even be necessary, but Rita actually ends up finding 2, so now it's come down to a 1 versus 2, although the C4 is dropped. And the smoke will only make the life of Rita more miserable. But with 35 seconds left on the clock, it's still somewhat a possibility, although Legion should be able to deny the pickup here with ease. They're spotted. Bloody puts the final bullet in. I thought Pokemon was the one that got the frag, but nice little double peek to conclude the round out, and just the start that Legion needed. Bloody and Soulmate off to a good start to defend the B side. Epis does get a trade, but Soulmate to hold the side all by himself towards the end as Weasel is the last one alive. And Legion, another great start to the half. Just what they had in the first one, and they tie up the score line. That force purchase didn't exactly work out, so now IHC are left to work with pistols yet again. Soulmate was quite successful in defending the B side last time around, so he's been left alone for the time being, but Bloody is going to be the one that kicks things off the right way. Pokemon to help him out, as well as collectively both of them end up finding 4. HF last alive. HF actually does fall, but A Best is the one. Is now on an island up against 4 with just a Deagle, an MP9 to work with, excuse me. The nade lands right at his feet, and Bloody to finish him off. A 4K to grant the lead back in. Bloody has been a very phenomenal player on the side of Legion. Whenever they've needed a clutch moment, somebody to show up, Bloody has not shied away. Even in a very recent LAN tournament that they played at the control point, Bloody was quite a big factor as to the maps that they did end up winning. But IHC now finally working with a full arsenal. Can they penetrate the defenses of Legion? is the real question. 3 rounds in a row to kick things off. Much slower approach, but once again it's going to be HF and Soulmate that get tested towards the B side. Weasel, who was merely trying to provide a distraction, has failed in doing so as Bloody shuts him down. HF takes the entry fragger out, and now Rotet gonna try and set up with the rest of his teammates. Although Rita has fallen, HF's op provides 2. There is a trade, but it has possibly come a little bit too late. Apex spotted out as well, and they know exactly where the remaining 2 players are. Redet traded out Soulmate, and the final frag goes the way of Legion as well. 9th round secured, and now Legion need only 4. Another charge into the B side. Soulmate alongside Bloody to hold the line. Both of them find a frag each. And once again, it's the same story as always. The whole squad of IHC continues to fall like dominoes. Weasel last alive, and only a matter of time before he goes down too. Legion hit double digits. And after a questionable first half, Legion recover quite nicely on the CT side of Dust 2. Money back in the pockets of IHC, so they're gonna go for a full purchase here. However, this is gonna be a make or break round for them. They can't afford to make more mistakes here, and that smoke shuts Bloody off from Pokemon, so no trades found. A good little start from IHC. Anticipated the aggression from Legion. And played right into it. It works out quite nicely for them as Bloody, who has been one of the more dangerous players to play against so far, gets taken out. Sultan's flank gets shut down as well, and Weasel, timing doesn't exactly work out for him, and HF granted a free frag. He's spotted in another one. The shot does get missed, but it is a 1 versus 1 here for the time being. The smoke should keep him safe at least for a little while. The shots missed on either end. Not gonna give much away to either end. Legion, they regroup towards the A side, and that is something that IHC, from the looks of it, should be pretty happy with. 40 seconds left on the clock, so IHC are gonna have to make a decision about where exactly they want to lead this battle in. Beautiful nade from the side of Pokemon. Ratat was extremely weakened up, and it landed on to the face of another one of the players of IHC. It's going to bring this down to a 3 versus 3 without even having to show face. And the timing, a little awkward there for Pokemon. Soulmate, though, continues to dominate the B side all by himself. HF finds the final frag, but the B side, as long as Soulmate's alive, there's nothing you can do about taking control of it. IHC, they've tried about 4 to 5 times already to try and penetrate those defenses on the B side, but it just never works, regardless of what the situation is. Soulmate, round after round, getting multi-frags to hold down the site, and now IHC with their backs against the wall, have to make a decision to whether force into this round and potentially risk a fight for OT, or just go for a save here. And from the looks of it, they are going to be forcing into this one quite a good amount. So far, not a single round won in the second half by the Ds. And IHC, they do have a bit of util to work with, however, they're not going to have many chances of resetting. So it's sort of going to be a one and done deal. They push into a side, they're going to have to commit to it. The smoke going to shut them out, at least for the time being, but Pokemon walking up close. He's anticipating something here, however, not going to find anything through the smoke. No luck there. Alright, so he's just going to wait this one out. They do have sufficient time on the clock. And I like this from Legion. They just keep on util dumping. Sure, to delay that push. Because they practically have information everywhere else across the map. They've only left short open and safely. But now Pokemon gonna be the first line of defense alongside HF's op. They've spotted a few players, both of them finding frag. Sultan follows up as well. Apis does get a trade, but HF continues to deliver. Last alive is gonna be Ratet. And Legion on the brink of map point, and they secure it. Soulmate, a headshot to conclude the round out, and map point secured. So apparently it does not matter which side Legion is on. It's the second half where they're dominant on Dust 2. They ended up winning the second halves of Dust 2 prior, with the score lines being 7-1 and 7-0 in their favor. It's looking like a very similar situation right now as well. 7-0 so far. Likely going to be an 8-0 from the looks of it, as HF puts what could be the end of map number 1 after a good start. There is an equalizer by Rita, but this off has been missing in this half. Sultan, beautiful timing onto Weasel. HF gets another, and Ibis is going to be the last one alive. Legion put this to end the second half. It practically, you blinked and missed it with how strong Legion were. The last few rounds, we even saw them getting a tad bit aggressive to take the fight to IHC, and they continue to prove their dominance on Dust 2. However, the next map is going to be Mirage, and we're going to have to wait and find out if they can keep this up. But before we do so, we're going to take a short break, so don't go anywhere. We shall be right back. अबे भाई पहले हाफ में मैड ये क्या कहते हैं अबे होती है ये देख बोलोगे तो ये देखो ना ये पता नॉइज गेट भी तो लगा है नॉइज गेट नहीं लगा हेलो हेलो अबे वो पता है ऐसे नहीं चलेगा ना हेलो Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the ESL Challenger match between Legion versus IHC. We're gonna be heading into the map number 2, which is gonna be Inferno, with Legion starting on the CT side. Now both of these teams, I believe, have not had any experience on Inferno so far in the ESL Challenger League at the very least. However, Legion, they did play it in a very recent tournament. Now, as we head into the pistol round, it seems like Legion are off to a really good start already. Soulmate and Sultan finding 3 as they hold down the A side all on their own. And with one player left stranded over towards middle, that's going to be Rotet, who goes down to the hands of Pokemon. The last player alive is going to be Zev. And it's only a matter of time, realistically, before he falls. The fight between HF and Zev is prolonged a bit, but Sultan and Soulmate from behind to finish things off here. A good start for Legion as they keep the momentum rolling from map number 1. I know for a fact that they do like to play Inferno. They were pretty confident heading into control point with their Inferno pick. However, the grand finals, it didn't exactly pan out as they had hoped, but they were facing off against one of the best teams that they have in recent times, of course. Mistakes to learn from, and HF, he's certainly off to a hot start here. Sultan looks to follow up as HF, he's gotten 3, the third one with a USP. Weasel, last alive. And Legion, they're steamrolling through IHC so far.
Counter-terrorist win.
Off to a great start on IHC. No money in the bank for them, so it's just going to be pistols all across the board heading into this one as well. Legion, they want to grow their lead exponentially as much as they can. Obviously in the first half, heading into the second one on the T side of Inferno, you want to have as comfortable a cushion to sit on as you could in terms of your lead. HF rushing straight down the middle. He's gotten 1. There's the second as well. Now hunting for more. Weasel does find 1, but there's the trade. Apis was able to successfully take HF down. However, now he's the last one alive, having to deal with 3. Make that 2 actually, as he finds a headshot onto Sultan. And this has gotten a tad bit dangerous, but Pokemon shuts him down. IHC, they do deal quite a bit of damage onto Legion, but the round's still not ending up in their favor. Finally, the rifles come out, and Rita out with the op. He had a few nice moments in the last game, well, that were on defense. However, we're gonna have to wait and find out how impactful can he really be on the T side of Inferno with that. A very aggressive push from Aspet. However, now he's isolated amongst those those Molotov, excuse me. And HF, he's already primed with that op. Bloody peek out as well as soon as necessary. HF finds 1. Now they realize that Apis had no immediate help. That Inferno should clear out Banana to a deeper extent. And IHC in the meanwhile have made their way onto the other side. Sultan and Soulmate to defend. HF making his way there as well. Timing's gonna be everything as HF gonna be the first line of defense. Unfortunately, he falls to Rita, the counterpart, on that op. Now this is a potential setup for them that would lead them into the B side, but Pokemon shuts it down. Finds both of the players that were looking for that possible rotation. Now Soulmate to defend the line onto the A side, but Zev picks him off. suddenly it's come down to a 2 versus 3. 35 seconds left on the clock for IHC. They have to make a decision, and now the A side is looking all the more easier. Sultan last for life. He does take Weasel. It's a 1 versus 1. Zev needs to bait him out. 25 seconds for him to work with. The bomb does get planted, and Sultan just gonna try and waste some time as the backup arrives. Pokemon from behind the smoke. Sultan and Bloody pressurized from the front, and an easy victory on the 4th round for Legion. This is what we love to see, a methodical play, even in a situation where Legion or where they have a massive advantage. They still refuse to give any clutch opportunities away to IHC. And if they can keep that composure, not get overconfident, then we could very likely be looking at a 2-0 scoreline here. Ooh, a lot of early util dump towards the banana side, and that's going to cost Pokemon his life. However, the util and retaliation from the side of Legion was extremely deadly as well. A lot of the players have been weakened up, so it should be a couple of bullets straight to the body for Legion to clean them up. Hence going to make matters all the more easier. 2 players have already been taken away from IHC. And now we're dead. It's only a matter of time before we walk into the crosshairs of Soulmate. However, Soulmate misses his shots actually. He did deal a bit of damage. However, not sufficient enough to be able to get the kill. And Legion still giving IHC some respect. They're gonna allow them some space towards the A side here. But they're all weakened up. They're gonna be walking into those AK-47s, and that's gonna make matters so much more difficult for them. Soulmate and Sultan clean house, and Legion pick up their 5th. I'd see another full rifle round for them, but they've seemingly found more success in some of the forced purchases or half buys. Soulmate. Blair walks right through this crosshair, but doesn't find the frag, although Weasel did get tagged down to just 3 HP, so even a nade should finish him off. However, Legion still gonna be careful. The reads have been pretty good so far. Legion's anticipation about where exactly IHC want to go has usually been based upon information, and they've been proactive in gathering information, however not too overconfident where they want to engage into fights. The Flash gonna force HF back, and he needs to reset here a little bit. Does have the support of 2 of his teammates, but IHC, they've got their work cut out for them. It's been extremely difficult for them to get any real estate to their name, and as soon as they go for a run at it, they get immediately shut down. Legion with a flawless 6th round victory. IHC's full buy round looked like absolutely nothing. A technical pause called in, so IHC, they're gonna have some extra time here to talk things through, and they do have some finances to work with, so they could potentially go for a force here. But obviously it's not looking very good for IHC. Legion steamrolling. They've not lost a single round ever since the first half of map number 1 came to a conclusion. So ever since those 12 rounds, Legion have won 14 consecutive rounds. And IHC still looking to find their footing on Inferno. It's not been pretty so far, but now with pistol upgrades and some util to work with, they're gonna try their luck again. A lot of util dispensed towards Banana, but bloody in a risky spot. The nade is absolutely perfect from Pokemon to set him up. He finds 2. Bloody absolutely gorgeous team play coming out from the side of Legion there to set him up. And HF on the other end of the map shuts down Red Dead. That's gonna leave only 2 behind, and Legion, they've taken their time with taking engagements, and whenever they chose to go for it, it's been extremely brutal. Another flawless round as Legion continue to soar on Inferno. Another rifle round for IHC, and another attempt to try and get their first round. Apest, once again a similar play to what we've seen before, however a different result to get things off at the very least. Although an HF does get an equalizer, Bloody did lose his life early on, but Legion with still 2 players to defend the B site, they're able to force IHC away, at least for the time being. Apest he's ran through those Molotovs, and you can see that on his HP just with 18 health points. He's barely surviving. HF uses the nade and clearly spotted Apest, but it was apparently enough for him to be able to find frag. However, before HF got it, Soulmate did end up losing his life. So IHC still very much in this round, and Legion, that smoke alongside Pokemon is all they have to try and hold on to the B site, where Pokemon eventually will start to feel the pressure. He's gonna have to hold this one down all by on his own. He finds 1. There's the second Rita Falls, couldn't convert with the op, and the 3rd headshot found as well. An 8-0 start from Legion, and Pokemon with a show-stopping performance so far. 10 frags, 1 death. And it has been actually from practically the whole team. Sultan with 9 frags, 1 death. HF with 10 kills to his name. And Bloody and Soulmate, they've shown up whenever they've been called upon as well. Both of them particularly had a good performance on Dust 2. And now it's the rest of the squad that's really taking the fight to IHC. Another technical pause. Hopefully this gets sorted out soon, but IHC, things are not looking good for them. The money is in shambles, and that should grant Legion their 9th with ease. And realistically speaking, this game is already looking to some extent done for. It's Legion's to lose. Game has been resumed, and with pistols yet again, IHC go towards Banana. Pokemon of an easy pick and onto Zev. Sultan and Soulmate cleaning up the house on the rest of the squad, and IHC another round where they gained practically nothing out of that. So a nice little headshot concludes the round out. Legion 9-0. And if we count the rounds that Legion have won without conceding a single one from last map, that brings the total to 17 rounds so far. They took the momentum in the second half of Dust 2 and they're running with it still. One more in and Legion will hit double digits as IHC. Another rifle round for them. However, the question is whether or not they'll get a different result. Bloody all by himself over towards Banana, finds 2, HF follows up. And now IHC, they're just looking broken. It seems like they have absolutely no idea how to counteract Legion's play. Even when Legion are not taking fights collectively, there's just seemingly nothing IHC can do about it. Those individual engagements are practically favoring Legion every single time. And once again, Pokemon had no support. He did find one Soulmate to get the trade to finish the round off, and that's going to be the 10th on board. 3 more rounds all Legion need to move forward into the tournament and eliminate IHC. Force coming out the D side. They've had the max for quite a while. However, it's not been very beneficial. Soulmate proactive towards middle this time, something that we've not seen very often from Legion in this map so far. It still works out pretty well for them. Rita first one to fall. And Legion, the amount of pretty much every single round that they've won actually has been extremely comfortable, and that reflects on the scoreboard on the of IHC. The maximum amount of kills that anybody on the D side has is just 3. While the average amount of kills on the side of IHC comes around to about 2. Bloody once again gonna get tested over towards Banana, and it's once again the same result, finding 2 kills extremely comfortably. Vertet does find 1, but HF and very quickly just trades the frag out. Bloody this time around does fall, but a 1 versus 3 is not gonna be easy for Russell to pull off, and well, Sultan puts him to bed. 11th round secured, and Legion only needing 2 more rounds to win the map and the series as we head into the final round of the first half. With the Rita having saved in the last round, I thought they might have wanted to go for an AWP in this one. However, that's just not going to be possible. The finances that IHC have to work with. this point, realistically, what can you even do if you're IHC, Soulmate and HF? Once again, off to a really good start. They're taking the fight to IHC at this point. Not afraid to be aggressive whatsoever. And already, within mere seconds, the game has come down to just 2 people for IHC in this round. And Zev, last alive, 18 HP to work with. Bloody, although he was ready, unfortunately, he's not going to win that fight. HF. Now, wanting to retaliate here, however, Zev tucked into the door and HF's not anticipating that. That's going to cost him his life, and now it's come down to a 1 versus 2, so Zev, a 1 versus 4 clutch? Is this going to be your way of finding the first victory for IHC? That too with just 18 HP, it could be a miracle. And oh boy, Sultan, he's not going to expect Zev to come up top, and he doesn't. Kill found, 1 versus 1 Pokemon to deny the clutch here. Zev ducks himself into the corner. Pokemon having absolutely no idea where he might be, but he's going to check the corner, and he gets the headshot. Zev falls. And the clutch has been denied. A flawless first half for Legion, and 1 more round is all they need to eliminate IHC and move on to the quarters of the losers bracket of ESL Challengers. Side switched. IHC on the favorable side of Inferno now, but with a 12-0 scoreline on their hands, is it even possible to mount a comeback from such a scenario? Apex, a good start there, however, an immediate trade once again for Legion. Pokemon finds another, and 3 people is all that Legion need to eliminate to set their foot into the next round of the losers bracket. Rita spotted and could very likely be pinched here. Ratet was able to provide no support whatsoever. However, a trade has been found. 2 versus 2. Zev takes Sultan out, and Bloody, he's gonna have to clutch this one up. 1 versus 2. He does have the C4. If he wants to win this game flawlessly, he needs to take both Zev and Ratet out. A pinch now being set up. He's gonna have to take both of these fights individually and time them right. The player from behind does time it perfectly. Zev shuts Bloody down, and IHC find the first round. However, making a comeback is still gonna be an extremely tall order. They've taken the first step to it. Legion not gonna opt for force here. Just gonna be working with pistols all across the board. That Molotov is gonna burn HF away, and Sultan is gonna get lined up through the smoke as Zev finds the first 2. IHC, they cannot afford any mistakes whatsoever, so they're being very careful and calculating every fight that they take, even in a round where they're facing off just pistols. spotted. Pokemon falls, and a flawless round for IHC. That puts the second on board. But this is where the rifles come out for Legion. And this is going to be perhaps the best chance that Legion have of closing the game out here as well, considering that the arsenal on the side of IHC isn't exactly the best. They have 3 FAMAS and then an SMG in the hands of Rita to work with. So as much as the game goes on, finances and hence the arsenal will continue to get better and better, although IHC realistically they lose 1 round, it's game over. They wouldn't mind upgrading in the very next round. Rita, good start with that MP9, finds Bloody. Now looking for more. That nade is gonna land right on top of Pokemon at HF. Sultan, questionable approach there to retrieve the weapon, and that is gonna cost him his life. Although HF does get the trade, they now know exactly where all of Legion is, as the Bees try to make their way onto the site. Or having to deal with 3 CDs altogether is not going to be easy whatsoever. Legion fall one after the other like dominoes, and IHC live to see another round. And this is the way, perhaps, for IHC to mount the comeback. You take 1 round, burn on it, one after the other. And you have to be careful and cautious in each one of them, because again, you cannot afford any mistakes whatsoever. Every round is a do or die moment for IHC here. But something that we've come to notice from Legion is that they sometimes can get a little overconfident, and that isn't exactly work out too well for them. But this eco, however, might not be the same situation, a 2 versus 2 somehow, just from Tech 9s and Deagles. AK is picked up for both of the remaining players. They're gonna have a smoke to work with as well. And Bloody, he's found Vessel, and an eco might be the way that Legion put this to an end, as Rita is the last one alive, standing right next to Bloody, and he shuts them down. Legion end up concluding the game out 2-0, a very comfortable second map, and they send IHC packing. But their ESL Challenger journey doesn't exactly end. For Legion at least, they're gonna have another match tomorrow, Thursday, 6 PM PKT. So make sure you guys do tune in for that. They're going to be facing off against either Fengda or UR, who are currently in a match. So whoever the victor is of that series will be facing off against Legion. 6 PM Pakistani time tomorrow. So make sure you guys do tune in. However, up until then, this is going to be it for us on Wider GG.